Yo, what's going on, guys? Söze's house, episode 6. You know what it is. I'm just gonna talk for a half hour. Maybe I'm entertaining, maybe I'm not. Maybe I mess up on every other word. I'm definitely gonna mess up on every other word. But anyways, I'm running super behind this week. I'm recording this late. The Friday Night Flex comes out tomorrow, and I'm barely. It's gonna be a long night. I'll tell you that much. I haven't been off track in a while. I've been pretty disciplined, pretty on schedule. I'm super behind. Part of the reason is we're going camping next weekend, and so I won't have Friday, Saturday, or Sunday to work. So I've got to try and get all of that shit done early. Plus, I'm redoing some old songs before I submit them to Spotify, and so that added like an extra. It's been a busy week. I'll tell you, yesterday and the day before too, I wasted 14 and a half hours. Man, to my artists and my producers, I can't stress this enough. If you already know this and live by it, that's great. You're better than me. I'm just starting to really get into it. But be organized. I spent 14 and a half hours. Right, so King Verbal, I'm about to submit to Spotify, but I learned this new vocal technique that really makes the vocals just shine, right? It's all about the high end. It's a vocal chain. I might start doing little production like videos, things that I do. If anything, maybe people will show me a better way, or maybe I'll help show some people a good way, the way I do it. So I'm going through and I'm redoing all the songs from King Verbal. I'm going to keep them very similar. I want to clean them up, polish them a little bit more. And so I spent 14 and a half hours working on this track, right? Because I opened up the session. I'm like, man, this shit's a mess. I'm like, I'm not the most organized, but wow, I was just really, I released this song like 3.5 months ago on SoundCloud, right? Because what I do is I release the songs individually on SoundCloud, and then when the whole project is out, I submit it to Spotify. So I did it like 3.5 months ago. So, I've done so much stuff since then. Honestly, I didn't really remember anything about it. So I open up the session. I'm like, damn, this shit it's all over the place. So I spend the first like 4.5, 5 hours just getting everything labeled correctly and where it needs to be, and setting up all my groups and my buses and yada yada yada, making sure the automation's a little bit cleaner. It was a mess. So I spent 5 hours doing that, and then I spend about 9 hours split between that night and the next morning, working on it, right? And at about 14 and a half hours, I'm like, man, I don't know what it is, but it's just not sounding like. I was playing the original master, and I'm like, wow, this sounds way better than what I'm doing right now. Like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, am I a worse producer now? And so I open up, I use the backup, right? Ableton has a backup feature, so it saves backups. So I open up my most recent backup, and I'm like, man, this doesn't sound like the finished song either. So I'm listening, I'm like, did Ableton delete like my effects and just all my work? And so I'm moving around. Damn, that dude slammed that door hella hard. I'm moving shit around. I'm going through all the folders. I'm like, wow, there's got to be something I'm missing. And I find a folder titled "Use This One." So apparently, and then it came back to me. I had everything recorded, and I was like, you know what? They're just not good takes. Let me re-record the song. So I re-recorded everything, and I saved it in a new session, right? So I got a new file, and then I put it in a folder that I literally titled "Use This One." I was in a hurry and I didn't look. I mean, I was like, man, if there's one thing that I hate most, obviously I don't hate this most. There's a lot of horrible things, but one just really inconvenient thing that I hate is wasting time. And man, when I realized I had just wasted, because I was already running behind, right? But I was like, no, I'm just going to smash through this. So I was just at my computer for like, I think from like 10 in the morning to like 11, 12 at night. And then the next morning as well. And I realized like all that time. So I opened up the file. All that time was wasted. I opened up the file that says use this one. It's organized as shit. I mean, I barely had to do any work to it to get it where I needed it to be. Like, man, I could have taken like, it took me about 4 hours still, but like 4 hours compared to the 14 that I was at and still not done. Man, anyways, I know I go on and on. Be organized, people. I know it's annoying. Like, I hate it, but what I've been doing since 3 days ago, I make sure everything is organized before I even start digging into a session. Like, obviously organize as you go, but like the biggest thing for me personally is like set up a template. That way, you know, whether it's for podcasting or whether it's for a hip hop song or I don't know, instrumental pieces or yada yada yada, you can just open up the template and everything's ready to be organized. Like, now you can just record in the right places. I know this sounds really basic, but I know if I do it, I'm not the only person. I'm guessing, or maybe I am. Maybe I suck. I don't know. But saves you a lot of time, man. Damn, I was gonna say something else, but what was it about organization? I don't know. Anyways, I gotta drop the Friday Night Flex, and I'm actually gonna make it for those of you that see this. This Friday Night Flex begins my fall project. Fall project is called Unplugged. You know, my spring project was a very like a new wave kind of hip hop kind of. I don't know, man. I'm not good with genres, but it was a a very different kind of new wave, kind of like how do you pronounce dude's name? Like Eminem. I actually have never heard his name pronounced. I mean, I've listened to his music for a while, but I've never heard his actual name pronounced because I just haven't looked anything up about him. I've just listened to some of his songs. And then the summer project was obviously a lot heavier. Kind of gave me like I was kind of going for like a Travis Scott-ish vibe, Don Toliver vibe, but like really rapping. Not that I don't like their music or that their music isn't good, but like it's not rap for the most part. It's very melodic, at least the stuff I've heard. And then this fall project is going to be super chill. I'm gonna do a lot of like, overall it's gonna have a very like jazz lounge kind of vibe. Like I like jazz. I like old jazz too. There's something about, I don't know what it is about like classic records. I mean, I know kind of what it is. It's, you know, they were only able to reproduce certain frequencies on old stereos and the way they used to print albums and whatnot. I don't know all the fine details, but that's the gist of it. So it's a lot crisper, I feel like. It doesn't have a lot of low end, which on the one hand, yeah, I know wouldn't work with a lot of modern music, but I like it. So I think the fall project, well, I know it's leaning very heavy on kind of a old school jazz soul vibe, but I'm gonna try and keep the low end in but really make those the mids kind of the crispiness of like jazz from like Frank Sinatra, Louis Armstrong, like that whole. I like that sound, so I'm gonna try and reproduce a lot of that on the album. It's gonna be all singing, whether it's like full out singing or just something super casual, like a head voice. But it's definitely fun. I've got most of it done already. I've got most of it written already. Got about half of it recorded. But it's gonna be a good switch up. You know, winter is gonna be like just strictly kind of a boom bap, modern boom bap kind of feel. It's just gonna be rapping, like really rapping. Not that the summer stuff isn't rapping, but it's a lot more aggressive. It's a lot more ego and just kind of, you know, flexing. Fall and winter are definitely gonna be my favorites. I'm just gonna say that right now. I really like spring. I really like summer, but fall and winter are my favorite seasons. Well, fall is my favorite season, but fall and winter I like more than summer and spring. And so I think that actually reflects in my music as well. It sounds kind of weird, but like, especially in fall, I'm just more, I don't know. Like, I like the vibe. I feel like I can write more easier than in, you know, spring. This is kind of weird to think about, but I do feel like I struggle more in spring. In summer, it's not too hard because it's not necessarily like the deepest content when you're trying to make like summer music, which is a little bit harder or a little bit funner. Fall is very laid back. I think of like, I don't know, like love songs and jazz. And then winter is very reflective. I don't know if maybe it's because it's cold. I don't know. But for me, the winter album is going to be all about, you know, kind of reflection and kind of just digging into me. That sounds lame. But anyways, I was noticing some things online, right? I find it, okay, so the thing I was looking at, where'd it go? Somewhere on here. Killer Mike. Yeah, so Killer Mike met with the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, and everyone's mad at him, right? And look, how do you expect change to happen without conversations happening? Like, I mean, like, I don't even agree with everything that Killer Mike says, but one, so far from everything I've seen and heard, like, I respect him. You don't have to agree with something. I don't agree with anything, like everything that anyone says. With all of everything that anyone says. I don't know if that made sense, but it's so weird that people are like, I don't know, man. I think like if I had a conversation with someone, if I had a conversation with another human being and my intent was to either further the discussion or, be a representation in the discussion or whatever the fuck, and then people got mad at me just for talk. Like, it's crazy that people get mad at some people for simply communicating with a specific person. Now, I would totally get I don't know a lot about Brian Kemp, but unless I'm missing something, which is totally possible, he's a politician and I don't pay attention to things. So, I mean, even if you disagree with a lot of shit that he says, one, the only way you're going to change anyone's mind is by having conversations and being open to not only having conversations, but also open to being open to seeing where they're coming from and being able to either relate or not. And here's the weird thing. Even if it's a wrong opinion, even if they're wrong, I mean, you're not going to change, you're not going to help them be right by not talking with them. And also, we're not talking about just like a dude on the street. Like, this is the governor of Georgia. Of course he's talking to the governor. Like, are you just like, nah, we don't like him, so no one talk to him until he's gone? It's not how shit works. I can also say, I don't know if I'd ever meet. Nah, I would. Right? Like my brain is like, don't get involved in politics in any way. What with social media and, you know, just the amount of eyes on everyone all the time. Excuse me. But at the same time, I've never met with a governor. So, like, if I had the opportunity to, yeah, I would meet with them. Right? If anything, it gives me a vibe in person of who he really is. And, you know, if anything, it's just a really interesting experience. Like, I have a lot of feelings about government officials and politicians, right? But, like, I'm just basing them on media. Just media and other people's perceptions. Like, I've never met one. So I try and I'm trying more as I get older to, like, realize that I have a very loose opinion because I'm just going off hearsay and the news. And, like, the news is biased, 1. 2, the news makes mistakes. 3, you know, I might not dislike someone. I might be like, I don't agree with some of the things that they think, but I might be like, you know what, overall, I think he's a good person. Like, yeah, maybe I think some of his thoughts are flawed, but, like, he thinks some of my thoughts are flawed. And, you know, it's weird because I haven't really dealt with anyone in government like everyone else for the most part. You know what I mean? Like actual people in government, not like someone who works at DMV or you know, the fucking, I don't know, receptionist at the courthouse. You know what I mean? Like, I don't exactly, I guess you don't really humanize them. You're like, oh, fucking politicians and this and that. And I've got to imagine most of them are just people. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's a lot of shitty people who get involved in politics because they're obsessed with power and whatnot. Speaking of politics, see that segue? That was smooth. I'm getting better. I'm not. I hate segues. It's so weird. Right? Because normally, the way that segues happen in conversation, the way that things move forward, is you're talking with someone else and the topic will slowly shift. But the way it shifts is because you say something and then they respond with the proper response, but it's slightly, maybe they throw in something else and you go, oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that because that relates to this. And then, you know, when you go down the chain, when you're just talking to yourself, it's like, all right, well, I'm done with that thought now. So like, there's no smooth transition. So I'm sure it's just a technique I got to develop. I know people do solo podcasts. I listen to them and they're entertaining. So bear with me. T.I. tells people to stop spending government loans on designer goods. Yeah, that's solid advice. My first thought when I read that was like, who the hell is spending government loans on designer goods? Like, I know we talk about it, but like, I don't know, man. I'm assuming maybe he means like welfare and like assistance programs. Unless there's a type of loan I don't know about. Because if people are just getting loans, like a bank loan, but from the government, obviously, and then spending it on designer goods, like, real talk, I don't think T.I. is saying, hey, don't do that in an article. Or in the news is gonna change those people. I mean, that's such a crazy. And realistically, it just comes down to like, everything comes down. Not everything, but most things come down to like how you're raised. Like, I wasn't, the best like emotional communicator, we'll say, right? Because of how I was raised. And then I developed, that after many trials and tribulations later on in life. But I developed that by the people I was in contact with, like the relationships that mattered. Well, and I will say, I say that, I'm like, oh, a celebrity's going to say something in an article and it's going to sway people's minds on such like a personal thing, like how you spend your money. But then I remember they're like, yeah, it does. It's crazy, I don't think, and maybe there's things that I don't realize I'm swayed by, but I don't think I don't really hold celebrities' opinions super highly. You know what I mean? Like, well, I guess that's not true. Huh. I mean, that's true. Like, that's fitness people and music people. Yeah, but that kind of applies. That's to my craft or like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Never mind. Scratch all that shit. You saw that in real time. I started talking before I thought something through, and about 2.5 minutes into it, I realized, oh, I'm a moron. I shouldn't be talking. But here I am. Oh, you know what's crazy that I saw? This isn't even on here, but I think it was Dr. Dre's wife was asking for like, I think it was like $2 million a month. Maybe it's like 200,000 a month. Either way, I think it was 200,000. Either way, a crazy amount of alimony. And this, she justified, she had, if this list is real, I mean, I just saw this shit online, so I don't know. She had like $20,000 a month for like her hair. I don't think that's right. It was some crazy number. And she had like, $10,000 a month on shopping. Man, me and Katie better work out, because if we ever get divorced and I happen to have made her very rich and she tries to pull alimony and is like, yo, I need $10,000 a month to shop, I will begrudgingly pay it, because not gonna go to jail over that shit. If it costs $10,000 to stay out of jail, it costs $10,000 to stay out of jail. I just couldn't believe that shit though. Like, man, I can't ever imagine. I'm just being real. I couldn't believe that. I'm not going to say that's entitlement. I'll just say this. I could never imagine a day where I would go, hey, you owe me all this money because you're super successful and I want to go shopping. Like, I get it. Alimony is, it can be a complicated subject. If this was like child support, I would totally get that. If when it comes to alimony, living costs, okay, well, I haven't worked in 20 years because I took care of the kids, I raised the kids, totally fine. I'm all for that. $200,000 a month? Yo, that's just crazy, man. Like, I would understand maybe like, man, maybe, look, $5,000 a month, get you a very nice apartment, you get a nice car. $5,000 a month for doing nothing. $60,000 a year as a single person, that's way above the medium income in California. And in other states, that's even higher. Move to North Dakota, bitch, because you could really stretch that God, that shit would break my heart. That would hurt. Maybe I like money too much. And I'm also sure Dr. Dre is probably like, whatever. Wouldn't even feel it. Yeah. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, boy, if that, first of all, this one's Snoop Dogg labels Donald Trump a racist. Ooh, he's taking a taking a real radical fucking stance. Joe Budden put on blast for allegedly masturbating his dog. I'm not gonna lie, I have heard someone make a justification for jerking off a dog. They told a story, I guess one of their old roommates or whatever, like, jerked off his dog because he was like, man, this dog has never got to come. So he, like, jerked it off with his foot or something. I think it was on, like, the Joe Rogan podcast. I think so, yeah. Anyways, I get the thought. I mean, I haven't had the thought, but I get how you could think that and then be like, damn, this poor dog. Like, think if you had just your elbows. It'd be a rough life. I still want to jerk off my dog. Maybe I'm taking a real strong stance on something. But, yeah, I couldn't. Even if, I just couldn't. I feel like, I mean, maybe to save my dog's life, but still probably not. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, what time at? 1:30. All right, I got so much shit to do. I got so much shit to do. I'm gonna have a hell of a long night, so I'm gonna end this early. Hope y'all were having a good week. The weekend starts tomorrow. Friday Night Flex drops. Make sure to tune in because, I appreciate that shit. All right, y'all.